So, with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Shawn Andrews as she takes it away. Come on up, Shawn.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. As Kurt mentioned, I love teaching colors, Insights colors. I do a few other things as well. And by the way, I wasn't at Glaxo. I was at Merck, Bristol Myers Squibb, and Allergan previously. So I have been in your shoes. I understand. I've had half of my pharma career, over 20 years, was in sales. So I completely understand, and we're going to talk about how you apply this to your sales roles. All right, so it's a pleasure to be here today. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, because this is normally a 4-hour workshop. We're going to do it in 1 hour. Are you up for that? Yeah. All right, excellent. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So Insights is the company. Insights is a company in Dundee, Scotland. That's where it's headquartered. The model is called Discovery, and it's affectionately called Colors. So you'll hear me refer to colors a lot, but it's Insights Discovery is actually the model. So let's just start off with a picture. This is going to be very interactive today. Let me ask you, what comes to mind when you first see this picture? And feel free to shout it out. What was that? Okay, transportation. You're going to have to shout a little louder. Okay, stopping and waiting, maybe a barrier. What else? I hear mumblings, but give me some words. So when you think of that picture, what comes to mind for you? Calming? Passing through?
Anticipation.
Okay. Waiting, anticipation. Commonalities. Accommodating. What's the basic function of this picture?
To allow the ships to pass.
Okay. To allow the ships to pass. And what does it need to do to allow ships to pass?
It needs to open.
It blocks and it needs to open. Okay? So thank you for those descriptors. A bridge is about connecting. So the foundation of colors is not about changing who you are. It's about adapting your behaviors and your thinking to better connect to other people. So today, here's the objectives and the value proposition: to identify the unique culture of your sales team for La Jolla Pharma, to help you connect with others more efficiently and effectively, to enhance your interactions and communication. So this is going to include your verbal, your nonverbal skills, as well as even the environment that you're working in. We'll talk about how you leverage strengths to a team, how you gain a deeper understanding and appreciation of diversity on your team, how you allow each person to contribute based on your unique color strengths and preferences, and finally, building a common language. So Insights Colors does all of these things. And it's been shown that this model creates high-performing teams. Now, you may be asking yourselves if you've ever had a personality assessment before. Let me ask you, show of hands, how many of you have ever had a Myers-Briggs? Most of the room. How many of you have ever had a DISC? Okay, say about half the room. Social styles, you ever done that one? See a few hands going up for that. Okay, so that was my first question. When I started teaching colors more than 10 years ago, my first question was, how is this any different than all the other personality-based models out there? And I'm going to show you a slide next that's going to show you the overlap. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's get to the slide. So Myers-Briggs is actually from the 1950s. What all of these models have in common is they're all based on Carl Jungian psychology. Introversion, extroversion, thinking, and feeling. That's the commonality. How they vary is in the application of the model and the assessment and the model itself. So Myers-Briggs, for example, I've created this overlay for you so you can get a rough idea. So extroversion, introversion corresponds to red and yellow would be the extroversion, introversion. In blue and green. Sensing and intuition, which we'll talk about, is actually in all 4 color energies. Thinking and feeling corresponds to thinking is red and blue, feeling yellow and green. And then judging and perceiving is actually not a Jungian preference. That was added by Myers and Briggs. And you can also see the rough overlays for disc and social styles as well. So one thing that's great about colors is if I meet someone, sir, what's your name here, right in front? Tim. I've just met Tim. I can't say, okay, Tim is an ESTJ, and this is how I'm going to adapt to Tim. I have no idea what his Myers-Briggs is by looking at him and by interacting with Tim. But within seconds of meeting someone with colors, you'll be able to determine their core preferences. So it's the applicability of the model that makes it really valuable. Cue the music, please. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is you have your profiles in front of you. Look at the back of your profiles. You'll see some bar graphs. Perfect. Does everyone have the bar graphs? All right. Look at the graph on the left-hand side, the conscious graph. Now you'll see look at the highest color, the highest one on the graph on the left, conscious graph. How many of you lead with red? How many of you have red as the highest bar? Let's see a show of hands. Wow, look at that. Okay, excellent. So this is for you. All right, you can cut it. For our red friends, on a good day, you would be perceived as competitive, demanding. Actually, that's a good day, demanding. Determined, strong-willed, purposeful, and bold. On a bad day, you may be perceived as aggressive, controlling, driving, overbearing, or just simply intolerant. Okay, let's be honest here. Let's admit it, right? Now, when I say bad day, I mean when you're under stress. Not the everyday stress that I'm trying to get to work on time, or I'm trying to make this meeting on time. When you're under moderate stress, you could be perceived as these characteristics here. Okay, let's move on. For red, fiery red, your general approach is fast-paced and decisive. These are decisive folks. You're also direct and assertive. The general approach is you're busy, formal, efficient, and structured. In general, you like productivity, like to be objective, like to have control, and like fast pace. And finally, the motto for fiery red energy is be brief, be bright, be gone. Also, let's do it now. All right, that sums up fiery red. We're going to talk more about characteristics, but in general, that's a pretty good description of fiery red energy. Okay, let's hit the next slide. Cue the music, please. Again, look at your conscious graph on the left-hand side. That's right. Turn that up a little bit if you could. There you go. Okay, for our yellow friends in the audience, let's see a show of hands if your yellow is your highest bar. All right, fair amount of you. Woo! You notice there were screams with that one. Excellent. Okay, now don't worry here. This is equal opportunity for we're going to pick on every color here, so it's not just reds that I did that with. All right, you can cut the music. So for sunshine yellow, on a good day, you are dynamic, you're demonstrative, you're persuasive, which is very helpful in the sales role, by the way. You're spirited and you're enthusiastic, which speaks to the woohoo. On a bad day, you could be perceived as, yes, excitable, frantic, flamboyant, indiscreet, and even hasty. Now, you may not see yourself this way, and that's okay, but others may experience this in you. on a bad day, when you're under stress. The approach for Sunshine Yellow is fast-paced and spontaneous. So for our red friends, was also fast-paced, but it was more structured. Sunshine Yellow is much more spontaneous. Also, social and uplifting. I mentioned this is usually the social butterflies of the group. In general, Sunshine Yellow is personal, friendly, outgoing, and creative. They like variety, relationships, people, and flexibility. One of the worst things you can do for someone who has Sunshine Yellow preferences is put them in an office all day and make them work by themselves. Yeah. Can I get an amen to that? Yes. So that resonates. It resonates with you. That's because Sunshine Yellow is driven by spontaneity and driven by flexibility and driven by variety. So those things play into an environment that suits that. And the motto for Sunshine Yellow, involve me. Yellows are people. They like to be involved. They like to know what's going on. Also, let's do it together. All right, you getting this? All right, next slide, cue the music. Look at your conscious graph on the left. If your highest bar is green, let's see a show of hands. All the greens are on this side. Isn't that interesting? Does anyone over here lead with green? One person. Isn't that interesting? You're green. We have a lot of greens for some reason sitting on this side of the room. All right, you can cut the music. Thank you. So our earth green friends, on a good day, you are caring, you're encouraging, you're supportive, you're patient, you're relaxed, you're very calming and soothing as well. The thing about people who prefer green energy is they're very likable. People like to be around green energy folks. All right? They're nice to be around because of these characteristics. Calming, soothing, patient, relaxed. But on a bad day, people could experience you as docile, bland, reliant, plodding, and stubborn. I'm going to come back to the stubborn in a minute. That's really key here. The approach for earth green energy is actually a little slower than their red and yellow counterparts, but they're open, very open and welcoming. Also tend to be casual and conforming. In general, they're informal, friendly, calming, and very personal. They like harmony, close relationships, and loyalty. And the motto is, show me you care, or do it in a caring way. So, earth green energy is all about people and caring. So let me ask you, for those who are green, who lead with green energy in the room, if someone crosses you, do you forget it? Never. Never. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. One and done. Okay, that's a great description. It's a great phrase for earth green. I mentioned I want to come back to the stubborn. The reason earth greens don't forget if you cross them, it's because loyalty and morale is really important to earth green energy. So when you cross them, it's actually often one and done. They don't forget it, and as a result, they could dig their heels in and become stubborn. So I have a lot of earth green energy friends in my life as well, and I see this all the time, right? Whenever you've crossed them or they don't agree with it, they can dig in and that's where the stubbornness may come out. Again, because it's based on relationships and it's based on loyalty. Okay, and finally, last but not least, cue the music, please. Look at your graph on the Left-hand side, your conscious graph. How many of you lead with blue? Woohoo! Now notice that was a little quieter. Here we go. We have to wait for the chorus on this. So a fair number of folks are blue. All right, that's for you guys. All right, you go ahead and cut it. Thank you. On a good day, you are cautious, precise, deliberate, questioning. On a good day, you're questioning, objective, and detached. Key characteristics. On a bad day, you could be perceived stuffy, indecisive, suspicious, cold, and reserved. Okay, I see some heads nodding, okay? Now again, you may not see yourself as this, and you may not be these, but it could also be a blind spot because others may see this in you and you may not see this. The general approach for cool blue energy is also slower like their green counterparts, but systematic. More formal and conservative as well is the general approach. These folks are structured, they're organized, functional, and precise. They like to be accurate, correct, thorough, and analytical. The motto is give me details, or let's do it right. So often for cool blue energy, the most important thing is to do it right, above anything else, actually. Right? Absolutely. Love it. Absolutely. So getting it right is the most important thing. Now, let me ask you, looking at these, there are professions that are where we tend to see clusters of different color energies. Now, caveat, there are all color energies in all professions. But there are some where we do see clusters. What type of professions would we see a lot of cool blue energy? What do you think? Accountants. Absolutely. What else? What was that? Engineers. I heard pharmacists. I heard pilots. Yes. Excellent. Very good. So anything that's about data, it's about numbers, it's about details. Attorneys, you could also say attorneys would fall into this. Some attorneys, not all attorneys. What would we tend to see green? Where would green folks tend to cluster? What occupations? Nurses, yes. Teachers, excellent. Nonprofit organizations, good one. A cannabis store. Okay. How about social workers? Greenpeace. Did someone say Greenpeace? I love that. Forest Service. Okay. So these are professions that are about giving back, right? Where would we tend to see yellow energy? You got it. Hospitality. Good one. Good one. So sales is where we tend to see clusters of yellow energy. Now, I'm going to show you your team profile at the end of this presentation. You're going to see where you guys all cluster and where you sit in general. But in every occupation, you will see all color energies, but there's certain clusters. Where do you think you would see a lot of red energy? Cops. Coaches, perhaps? Lawyers? What was that? Was that doctors? Athletes. Okay, athletes, that's a good one. Task focus, that's right, goal focus. Finance, yeah, you tend to see some red there. Anyone else? Okay, good. We tend to see a lot of folks also in leadership roles who have red energy in them. Sometimes they lead with red, sometimes it's a secondary or maybe even a third energy, but a lot of leader roles tend to be red. But again, you see all energies in all occupations. All right, excellent. So what other strengths can you think of? So let's start with red and we'll move around again. So let's start with red. What strengths, how do reds help us in the workplace? Okay, help us with drive. Great, helping us get things done. What was that? Okay. How can they help us at work? Great, great, great. Keep things moving, initiative, helping us, hold us accountable. What was that? Oh, lead, provide leadership. Great, great. Anything else come to mind for you? Just want to make sure I'm not leaving anyone out if you have a voice you'd like to share. So let's take a look at the list. Challenging constructively. So reds are great at playing devil's advocate and stepping back and saying, well, I don't think that's going to work. Let's take another look. Determining direction, so leading, we talked about that. Delivering results or drive, and also initiation. Let's go down to yellow. How does yellow energy help us in the workplace? Okay, motivation? What was that? Boost morale. Good one. Collaboration, absolutely. Yes. Entertainment, yes. That often gets overlooked sometimes when we talk about work. How about fun? Just having fun. Yellow energy is great for that. Let's take a look. So yellow, inspiring and motivating. You mentioned that. Injecting energy and enthusiasm. Remember, these folks are very positive, optimistic. Envisioning new possibilities. Yellows are great at being big picture thinkers. High-level big picture thinkers. So they can help us imagine new possibilities and establishing effective relationships. How can earth green help us in the workplace? Building consensus, yes. Keeping us calm. What else can you think of? Collaborate, okay, great. Help us be collaborative, help us focus on the team. What else for green? How can green help us? Okay, right, how to get along. There's a book by Covey that came out a few years ago, popular book. It's a different twist on, it's been around for a long time, but the focus is on this topic now when it comes to leadership. Does anyone want to guess what topic it is? It came after that, after habits. It's a word we hear a lot now when we talk about the workplace and we talk about particularly leadership. Yes, trust. He wrote The Speed of Trust. So trust has gotten a lot of play lately. Earth Green Energy helps with that because they can help us build trust at work. They can also nurture growth, serve others, serve and support others, and demonstrate loyalty and commitment. And that's incredibly important today in our workplaces. Excellent. And then how can our cool blue energy colleagues help us at work? What was that? Decisive. Help us be organized, yes. What was that? Help us analyze, okay. Planning, great. What else? Help us with being accurate, yes. And also helping us focus on the bit data, maybe, coming back to that. So let's take a look. Ensuring consistency and reliability, evaluating critical processes, establishing principles, and honoring and applying personal and collective wisdom. So as you can see, all four color energies bring strengths to the workplace. Oh, sorry. Let me go back there. Go for it. I see there's a lot of pictures being taken. And I agree with you. This is a really good slide because it's things we don't often think about. Okay, so let's get to your graphs. So you're on your graph page at the end of your profiles, right? The bar graphs. Let's talk about what those mean. So remember the evaluator you took? It was 25 questions. It asked you to rate yourself, describe yourself, there were word pairs, what was most like you, what was least like you, and then rank from 1 to 5 in between. Did anyone find that difficult? Were there some word pairs that they all applied to you? Oh, okay. Right, she said, well, maybe one applied and the other didn't apply at all. So what do you do with that? So it was only a 25-question assessment, right? But there's a wealth of information that we got out of that evaluator. So in the millions of people who's taken this insights discovery model worldwide, this is shown to be valid and reliable based on the pairs of words in each of these questions. So as you can see, each of these pairs were color-coded. So this is just an example for you. But the responses on your profile that you have in front of you is based on the pairs of words that you selected in your first and second preferences. So your conscious graph, the graph on the left-hand side, this is a response to your direct answers or your direct responses on the evaluator. So however your direct responses were translated to that conscious graph. So this is a combination of who you are, of who you need to be, or who you want to be. It's how people might experience you when you're consciously acting. So think of it as your game face. When you get up in the morning and you go out into the world, or maybe you go out into your job, when you're consciously acting a certain way, and that's how people are experiencing you, that is your conscious graph. So think of it as your game face. You're putting on your game face, you're acting in a certain way based on your role or based on the situation. Now the other graph on the other side is called your less conscious graph. Notice it's not unconscious. You're just less conscious of it. This is a response to the indirect answers on your evaluator. So not your direct responses, but there were calculations done in the background, and then that's how they got your indirect, your less conscious graph. So this graph on the right-hand side, it suggests your more instinctive behavior or your natural state. So when you're not acting, when you don't have your game face on, when you're just being yourself in your natural state, that is your less conscious graph. It highlights possible blind spots also. And we'll talk about that. And it's how people might experience you when you're not consciously acting. The graph in the middle is called your preference flow graph. Now what this is it's the amount of adaptability going from your less conscious to your conscious graph. So it's the amount of energy that you're either dialing up or dialing down when you show up in the world. It highlights which energy we're putting effort into or perhaps suppressing. And we're motivated to turn up or dial up, dial down our color energies based on the situation. Now, some of you, so see the bars in the middle? There's bars going up or going down. How many of you have bars that are going down in your preference flow graph? Let's see a show of hands. So bars going down in your preference flow. Okay, a handful of you. There's usually more than that, actually. So what that means is it's the amount of ability or amount of energy you're adapting. So if you have bars going down, it means one of three things. You're either surrounded by that color energy at work and you don't need it, so you're not using it, you're suppressing it, or you're dialing down that energy. The second reason is the job may not require it. So let's say you're high blue, but you're in a sales role. And it doesn't require a lot of your blue energy and preferences. So you could be dialing it down based on the role. The third reason that we see bars going down is you could be avoiding that particular color. Just simply because you're maybe not comfortable or not as competent in that color. So those are generally the three reasons that bars go down. Now these, we dial up and dial down colors every single day, all throughout the day, depending on the situation. Now remember the bridge I showed you in the beginning? The bridge is about connecting, right? It's about adapting, not changing who you are. So having this awareness and applying it, we're going to talk about practical uses next. But having this energy, if you are constantly adapting and to connect better to other people throughout your day, you will be more successful. Because it's all about connecting to people, right? Be more successful in your lives and in your jobs. So that's why this is so powerful. The preference flow, also another concept that's important, is there are opposite color energies. So if you are sunshine yellow, what do you think the opposite energy is to yellow? You were right the first time. It's blue. Your first instinct is right. So if you are an extroverted feeler, yellow energy is your main preferences. Blue, an introverted thinker, is opposite. Blues and yellows have the hardest time communicating and connecting with each other. Yeah. Did you hear what he said? His boss is blue. It happens. It happens every day, right? Yes. So opposite of red then would be green. Okay. So if you are high in red and have a lot of red energy, and you are trying to work with, or perhaps you have a customer that's earth green, those two energies have the hardest time connecting and communicating with each other. So this is an important concept, is opposite energies. Okay, so the question is, are they learned, or are we born with these? So these are based on your core personality preferences. So, and we're going to talk about the wheel next. But if you are, let's say red, let's say if you're an extroverted thinker naturally, it's unlikely you're ever going to become an introverted feeler. You're not going to jump across to the other side of the wheel and become opposite. Now, we can move a few spokes within the wheel in our lifetimes, depending on our jobs, depending on our age. That does change, and I'll talk about that next. So you're not going to jump to the opposite color energy. It's very, very unlikely. But you can move a few colors in either direction on your core preferences. Well, there are certainly learned behaviors. So, and actually, that's the point of the workshop today, is to be aware of your core preferences and then what you can do to adapt. Now, it's not about changing. You simply just need to adapt to better connect to your wife. We can have a therapy session after this if you want. So actually, it brings up a great point, though. And I'm going to mention this because I often get asked this in these workshops. In the workplace, what color energies do you think we gravitate towards in the workplace?
Yellow.
Let me rephrase that. It's kind of a confusing question. We tend to gravitate towards our own color energies at work. So 2 reds, 2 blues, 2 yellows, 2 greens will tend to get along well and work well together because they have similar preferences. So like tends to attract like in the workplace. Now, this is about diversity too, and appreciating the strengths that each person brings to the team, right? So we should be conscious and mindful of not just gravitating to people who are just like us, because there's a tremendous amount of strengths that other energies can offer us and help us in our jobs. But going to your question, where do you think we gravitate in our personal lives? I think I heard one person say it over here. Yes, opposite. Instinctually, we gravitate towards opposite color energies in our personal lives. Most of us choose partners who are opposite of us. Interesting, isn't it? So it's like we instinctively know about balance and having compliments to us. But it's not always like that at work, so we need to be mindful to make sure we have that balance at work. All right. So in summary here, the conscious graph, think of it as like a formal portrait of you. When you sit down for a portrait, like at a wedding, you're posing, right? You're acting a certain way. And hopefully you are aware of those behaviors. Think of the less conscious graph as your more instinctual self. So if you're at the wedding, you've posed for pictures, you move into the reception, and there's roving photographers all around, and they just catch you, that's more of your instinctual self. So think of the one on the right as more like a selfie, and the one on the left is more like a portrait where you're posing. You're acting a certain way. All right, so what does the energy mean? We can be any color at any time. The highest color is your most preferred and most visible to others. Your lowest color is what we're least comfortable with. So the lowest bar graph is your least comfortable. What does the position mean? Colors above that line, that 3, are visible and were used competently and confidently and consistently. Colors below the line we're more reluctant to use, and we may appear less polished. So that could be a reason that we tend to avoid certain color energies. And then what does other information tell us? The order and intensities of your graph tells us a wealth of information. And both graphs are the real you. So that's an important point. Practical uses. So you ready to learn how you can apply this knowledge now? All right. So every time you meet someone, you have the opportunity to use your skills to adapt your energies. This was a study out of Harvard Business Review. What percentage of business issues are due to lack of interpersonal skills, not the competency of the parties? What do you think? What percentage? 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. You guys are good. 87. Good job. So 87% of our business issues are caused by us missing each other and not connecting. It's pretty profound. So let's talk about clues from verbal style. So if you're hearing, I should say, control, little emotion, they're businesslike, maybe they're blunt, they're questioning, they're nitpicking, they will be in the upper thinking, either the red or the blue. If you're noticing that they're feeling silence in the conversation, they're having telling style versus an asking style. They're telling you what to do. They respond quickly and they're spontaneous. Then they would tend to be, they're over on the extroverted side, most likely the yellow. If you are hearing a relaxed tone, maybe emotions coming up, emotional words coming up, expressive, animated, and asking personal questions, that would put them down in the thinking preference, or the feeling preferences, most likely green. If you detect quieter speech, they're thinking before they're speaking. They're asking instead of telling. They're keeping to themselves and diplomatic. That would put them over on the introverted preferences, most likely blue. Now that you know this information, we're going to put you to a test here. Where would you put me? Okay. I hear a little bit of everything. Okay, let's look at just this verbal style. Is my rate of speech fast or slow? Okay, a little on the faster side. Do I use a lot of gestures and animations? Okay, versus no gesturing, okay? Emotions, am I showing any emotions or expressions? Okay, just based on those 3 pieces of information, where would you put me on that wheel? I actually sit right between red and yellow. Okay. So just based on a few pieces of information. So I'm going to bring up the images here. So red energy, we'll start at red and move around again. So if you see that they're businesslike, Maybe they're more rigid and less facial expressions. Those are some clues from their body language that they have red preferences. Yellow, full eye contact, a firm handshake. They're looking you in the eye. That's a hallmark of yellow energy. If they're relaxed, maybe more physical touching. They're open and responsive. That would be green. For blue, quiet, avoiding touch, intermittent eye contact, and what's the last one there? A gentle handshake. They would tend to be blue energy. Just a quick story from here is because I sit on the red-yellow side, I'm a hugger. And in all my years of pharma, I would used to go up and just hug people. And then I started learning about this model and training on it, and I realized not everybody likes to be touched. Especially in the work environment, right? And it's okay. But not everybody likes to be touched. So I no longer come up and just hug people now. I don't just go up and touch, put my hand on their shoulder. I want to respect that in other people. So think about that if you happen to be a hugger. Now, once you establish that relationship, sure, by all means. And if they want to hug you first, great. But I don't go up and initiate that because I want to respect folks here. So there's Will Smith for you. Energy, intermittent eye contact would be yellow, green, friendly, patient, and the physician here. Okay, clues from working environment. This is one of my favorite pieces here. So when you walk into a physician's office and you look at how their office is set up, if it's orderly and businesslike, if they have the correct tools for the job, maybe organizers, time-saving gadgets, that's likely a red energy. Also, it may be sparse looking. Let's move to the left-hand side this time. Let's look at blue. Blue would be formal, possibly cold, organized and systematic. Information and books at hand would be blue energy. Moving down to the green, if you see plants, family photographs, maybe stuffed animals in their offices, that indicates, maybe a candy bowl, that indicates earth green energy. And finally, let's look at the yellow's office. Tends to be a mess. Unorganized, you have lots going on, plaques, trophies. Remember, they're about people. So let's do a little quiz here. Where would you put Don King? Where would you guess? Good, good. I'd put him in yellow too. It's a mess. I think he's got a hamburger there. He's got a tissue box. He's got papers on his desk. Now, if you happen to be yellow, this is not a reflection on your organizational skills. It's because yellow energy has a lot going on and they're busy people. So that's why their offices could look messy. Where would you put Meryl Streep, Devil Wears Prada? Sounds like red's a consensus? There is a plant, true. It's an orchid, though. It's very organized, it's structured. She does have a plant. It's pretty sparse, so yes, I would agree, red. Where would you put this guy? Okay. He does have books, right? A lot of information. But he has a flower, plants, I think a candy bowl. And then where would you put this physician? There's a couple hallmarks here. Notice the anatomical model on his desk. Notice the encyclopedias and the medical reference books, maybe the journals. So this works. When I was in your shoes, when I did pharma sales, I would go into a physician's office. If I saw the office up on the left, I would say, hey, how you doing? How was your weekend? How was that vacation to Tahiti? I would talk about social things right off the bat to connect with him. If I walked into Meryl Streep's office, if I saw that in a physician's office, I would get right to the point. I wouldn't chit-chat. You get right to the point. If I walked into the physician in the lower right side, I would show him the latest article, show him the data. I would talk about facts and data right off the bat. And if I walked into the green office, how are your kids doing? So these little things work to help you connect. Okay, last piece, emailing. Oh, let me back up here. Emailing in color. You have mouse pads on your to take home for you. There is great tips on how to email in color. Much of our day is spent going through emails. I'm going to share just parts of this, and I want you to tell me what color you think it is. Hello, lovely ladies. Just back from Singapore, which I believe went really well. Given the cultural differences, the group responded. I wanted to follow up on a couple pieces from our conversation pre-Seattle and say thank you so much for your time. It was great to build a better understanding of our business model. Many thanks for all of your help and support. It's an absolute delight working with you. Sending hugs and positivity from the UK. What do you think? Little yellow, yellow, green. So there's a few hallmarks here. It is a yellow. So good job. There's a few hallmarks here that are yellow. What do you think those are? Exclamation points. Yes. Hugs. Exactly. Hugs, positivity. There's a lot of energy coming out of this. There's a lot of optimism. That's yellow energy. Two hallmarks for yellow. Exclamation points and smiley faces. You don't usually see a lot of smiley faces in a blue energy email. But you do in yellow. Okay, here's the second one. I'm just going to read parts of this for you. As a follow-up, we'll be meeting tomorrow at our advanced program. Here's some things, here's some objectives. 1, 2, 3. Studies such as Harvard and Gallup have proven that teams were more connected in performing, blah, blah, blah. Here's a link to Harvard. Breakfast will be at 8. The program will start promptly at 8:30. We'll end at 4:30. You'll be given a full agenda when you arrive. What do you think? Yeah, I hear a lot of reds in the audience. A red would probably not get through the first paragraph of this. This has blue written all over it. What are the hallmarks of blue? You got it. Details. What else do you see in this email? Data, that's right. This is all about data. They were nice enough to quote. They were nice enough to give us a link, quote information for us, and they're going to give us more information tomorrow when we show up at the meeting. So this is blue. Blue emails tend to be very long as well. Here's another one. Hello, Joe. Congratulations. Welcome to the best team, best ever. I'm in charge of getting you set up. How would you like your printer? How would you like your computer? Will you be ordering a phone? I'm going to Costco later. Green. Okay, I'll just cut to the chase here. It is a green energy. There's a lot of questions in this, which tells you it's green. They're asking versus telling. They're asking a lot of questions. It's also all about the team. And lastly, my favorite one. Yes. How many of you get emails like this? Every day, right? Every day we see these. Okay, here's the bottom line. Which color should you be emailing in? Depends on who you're writing to. So what if you don't know who you're writing to? So the answer is, just because we're getting short on time, the answer is you should email in all 4 color energies. If you are green and you get this email, it's going to be a turnoff because it's not friendly, there's no name, there's no thank you. If you're yellow, it's likely going to be a turnoff. If you're blue, it's not enough information. So the bottom line here is email in all 4 color energies. Okay, lastly, I said I want to show you where you are as a team. Look at that. So you have an even distribution of color energies, but you are clustered in the red and yellow. So this is more of an extroverted group in general, but you do have all 4 spread out and evenly distributed. So not a surprise for the role that you're in, right?
Does that have something to say with who hired us?
It could. It actually could.
The color that hired us?
Mm-hmm. It could have to do with who hired you.
Opposites attract.
Opposites do attract. Okay, quick quiz. Which color energy is known for enthusiasm? Which color energy will you likely find pictures and plants in their office? You got it. Which color energy prefers time to think and process? And what's the best way to send an email to a red? quick, to the point. All right. Excellent. You guys got this. I love it. Next steps. Review all the sections in your profile. It doesn't take long. It's a quick read, and there are really key points of information in there. Especially pay attention to the effective selling chapters at the end. There's some great information that apply to a sales role. You also have an insightful strategies handout, which is great. Allow yourself and each person on your team to fully contribute to their potential. I hope that was a takeaway for you today. Put your knowledge into practice to better connect with others. And I'll leave you with this. If you want to connect with the green, be green. If you want to connect with the blue, be blue. If you want to connect with yellow, be yellow. If you want to connect with the red, be anything but red. All right, and I'll hang around and take questions. I will leave you with the rainbow, so thank you.